Hello, Instagram.
Hi, Instagram.
We are getting Facebook going live somehow. Megan is taking photos instead of going live.
Oh my God.
We are here today sitting in my herb garden. We thought that would be appropriate for our episode on herbs. Live from the herb garden. It's a beautiful day in Houston, and so we are enjoying it, sitting right next to this beautiful herb garden, enjoying our herbal tea.
It's herby.
It's herby.
So, what we really want to talk about today is, just how, when we talk food is medicine, herbs are the ultimate medicine. That's really what we're talking about. Obviously, all foods are healing, but herbs especially are. They're very concentrated. I mean, you smell them.
Yeah.
Because they're so powerful and potent. So this is real medicine. This is nature's medicine. And all herbs, even, so we're saying these are culinary herbs because this is what we cook with daily. But even medicinal herbs, which you might not be cooking with, things like chamomile and other things like that, that might qualify more as a medicinal herb. They're all the same, right? These just tend to be more flavorful and delicate, so we like to cook with them more.
Mm-hmm. The other ones we'll get into when we go into tea, which will be in a couple weeks, right?
Yeah, exactly. So that's really what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But
so there's a big difference between using a dried herb or a fresh herb. And so obviously we always talk about going straight to the source. And there's something about going straight from the fresh herb. And as I mentioned in the video, very nonchalantly, is that the fresh herbs actually contain the essential oils that come from that herb, which makes it even more powerful and healing. And it's always good to go for the fresh. But you wouldn't want to chop up a bunch of fresh herbs and put them into the oven at a high temperature for something that's going to cook for a long time because they're going to burn on top, right? So something like that, it's more appropriate to use a dried rub, something more processed. But at the end of that, when you pull it all out and you put all your accoutrements on there and you plate it up, some fresh herbs on top is perfect.
Yeah, so it's like starting the cooking process with dried and ending the cooking process with the fresh. So you're really keeping all of those essential oils, all of those also water-soluble vitamins that are in it, right? So as things heat up and start to evaporate, you'll lose some of that. Not that it's a bad thing, right? Because you're cooking in a lot of different dynamics, but that's the benefit of keeping the fresh herbs fresh. But some of the fresh herbs, like rosemary behind us, you can't really eat that raw. I mean, you could, but it's really intense. That you could cook in the oven. Like if you chopped it up with some garlic, tossed it with some vegetables and threw it in the oven, that you could cook. So, the density of the herb would matter as well.
Mm-hmm. And rosemary is one of the hardier, more wintry herbs that we talked about.
And that makes sense too. So these hardier wintry herbs, rosemary and thyme and sage, those are ones we tend to cook, right? Because during the winter you tend to cook more, and that's the energy of the winter. Then you go into spring and summer, the energy of that is more for the raw and the fresh. So things like basil and parsley and mint, these things are more delicate. You don't need to cook them, and actually you don't usually want to because they're so beautiful. So that's how seasonal eating just goes together with cooking so simply.
Mm-hmm. And those fresh, delicate herbs are so beautiful to put into salads, and a lot of times I forget about it. I'm going to be good about it this summer especially. I remember when I had mint growing like crazy on my driveway in New York, I would just throw it into salads just to use it up and kind of keep it under control. And I can't tell you how many people are like, what did you put in this salad? It tastes so fresh. And I'm like, it's fresh mint. And it seems like it would be overwhelming, but it's really not. It's very light and not too strong. It's not like eating toothpaste, Franco. It actually is a really nice, delicate taste. And actually, this Passover, we had a meal together, and we had all those herbs from filming this episode, and I was like determined to use all of them. You guys, if you saw the set, I mean, it was so many herbs, and I'm like, I'm gonna put them all into this dinner. And one of the coolest things I did was made this thing called shug, which is kind of like a Middle Eastern version of pesto. And so it was like parsley and cilantro and jalapeno, and basically it was just like a pesto. But how nice, because it used up all those herbs. It preserved it because I put it in with olive oil and have it in the jar now, and it's still going. And the next morning we put it on our frittata. You can stir it into soups. You can just have it ready to go, and that's a way to get that high density of fresh herbs, or what do you say, high dose of fresh herbs, by just adding a teaspoon of that. And if you think it's going to go bad if you have too much, you can always freeze it. So you can use the greatest thing is to use ice cube trays, and you can fill those up and freeze them in ice cube trays, and then break them open and have a baggie of fresh herbs waiting for you. Throw them into soups and stuff.
It's great. And when Cara was just mentioning mint, it was making me think about how mint is very invasive, right? So I put my mint in pots, and so do you as well, because if you put it in here, it's really going to take over. Because it's got such an incredible immune system, right? So a lot of herbs are weeds. They grow so easily. This is why it's really nice to have your own herb garden, because so many of them just naturally want to grow, and they have such a resilient immune system. So mint is like one of those. If you're looking for a strong immune system that just continues to grow and go, maybe mint is the herb for you. So this is also a way to think about how herbs and food can heal and give you different things that you might need. So like we talked on the show about rosemary, where it's really warming and it's a blood mover. Something similar to that is oregano. That's one of our favorites. It's really hot and spicy. Like if you eat a couple leaves of oregano, your mouth is kind of on fire, and that taking in that heat into the body can help kill off pathogens, especially bacterial infections. So this is also why it's an antibiotic. So you can bring in oregano for that. It's super, super healing.
Oregano is super healing.
Yeah.
And so something I learned from experience, which hopefully you don't have to learn it this way, when I ordered my essential oils and didn't read all the fine print before playing with them, I was like, oh, oregano oil is really good for, fighting infection and all this stuff. And I'm like, I'm going to put some on. And I put it straight on my chest, like right here. I turned the bottle over like I do some of the other ones, more of the blended ones and the lighter ones. I can't tell you how nauseous I was from this oregano oil. It reeked out of my body for about 3 days. I couldn't stop smelling it, and it was giving me this nauseous feeling. And this is where something healthy and that is good for you and medicine turns to something toxic, because it is so strong that it has to be diluted. And so it's just something to learn from.
Exactly. So with anything, if it's going to be helping to kill off pathogens and all of these things, in foods in general, there is a toxic level to it, which is actually where it's medicinal, is in that toxicity. But when we have too much of it, it becomes overly toxic, right? And especially when we concentrate things, so we're concentrating these plants into essential oils that you see a lot nowadays. They're fantastic, but you have to be very careful, because that can be a high toxic load to the body, like what Cara experienced, especially with oregano, where it's so hot and spicy. Yeah, and that her body, like, she got nauseous because that means her liver was trying to clear all of that. Her skin was absorbing it, and the liver was like, this is too much, we need to try to clear, and she was getting nauseous. So basically, kind of, this is how powerful herbs are. They are medicine. When you eat them as a whole food, right, we're not extracting the essential oil, we're eating the whole food. That means it's going to synergize with the body so much easier. It has the fiber, the body's going to be able to digest it better, so you don't have to worry about that. That's why these can be high dose herbs.
Right.
But when you extract from that, that's when you need to lower the dosage amount and be very careful, especially when it comes to essential oils and stuff.
And I mean, if you guys make the taco recipe that we shared this week, yes, we eat tacos, we eat pizza, we eat burgers, and it's like adding fresh vegetables and fresh herbs is a way to make these things healthy, because you're just incorporating all this healthy, fresh food into these types of foods. So we don't have to look at them as naughty, and we don't have to look at them as a bad thing. We just have to do them in a healthy way. And in our black bean tacos that we made this week, we chop up a bunch of fresh oregano into the beans, and I really find that makes a huge difference in flavor. Using fresh oregano, even in like my lentils and chilies, putting fresh oregano as opposed to the dried oregano brings a whole nother level of flavor. And so it's super easy to grow in the garden. I think maybe once I killed mine, but it's this one, and look how it's traveled. Oh my gosh, look, it wants to go over. Oh, you can't really see everywhere, but should I turn it?
Sure.
Okay, but look, see? Look how it just wants to take over everywhere. I have to kind of train it back. So oregano is super easy to grow. Yeah.
Yeah, and what was I gonna say about? Oh, so layering. I was going to talk about like layering different flavors and medicinal properties when it comes to cooking. So you usually start out cooking when you're sauteing with something like onions and garlic, which are, again, medicinal, like we've talked about. Those are the spices, right? Garlic is a spice. It's a root, so it's a spice, and onion is as well. You start sauteing that. Then if you're adding some dried spices, right, some cumin, or, even the dried oregano version, or oregano is, again, hardy enough, it could go in early enough with your dish, but you add your dried spice in there, because what it's going to do, and in culinary school we call it like blooming, you allow the dried spice to bloom with the hot oil, and that helps wake it up, bring all of its essence out into the dish. And then you start cooking and layering from there, and then you finish your dish with the fresh herb. So then you're getting the whole synergy of the dried, all the different varieties of dried spices, and then the fresh herbs on top. So now, just like our tacos, you have this healthy, healing dish that's medicinal and tastes incredible.
And we can do even the same thing with like arugula and stuff like that, those spicy greens. It's more of a leafy green, but it's got that bitter, it almost is like a spice, right?
Yeah.
I feel like it is, because I'll chop a whole bunch of that, but you throw it in at the end, and it just kind of blends and disintegrates into there. And so you can use a lot of this stuff. Really layer it in.
Yeah, exactly. So this is how you're just cooking on a daily basis with medicine, right? And this is how you're constantly boosting your immune system, and you're constantly bringing these things into your life. If you have things that are coming in, it's helping to fight them off, so that you never get that sickness that maybe someone next to you is like, oh, I'm so sick, and you're like, oh, I'm feeling fine. I wasn't fazed by that, because you're keeping these things in your system.
Keep boosting your immunity, keep fighting, we're always fighting sickness. We're always fighting pathogens. It's
always a balance.
We're always fighting cancer.
Yeah.
This is we're all in the fight every day. So it's like, don't wait until you're sick. Just do it now.
Just do it now. And this is how we're like maintaining our health.
Prevention.
Yeah. And this is also why we don't look to supplementation for health, right? We're looking to food for health first, right? This is how we go there first. We do it on a daily basis. So we don't have to worry when we're like getting on an airplane or something and people are like popping all these awful airbornes and vitamin C's. Like, why are you doing that? Now your body's like, whoa, what's going on? Having to filter all of that processed supplement, right? That's not even a whole food or a real food, to think, okay, I'm helping my body. Well, if you were doing it on a daily basis, it shouldn't matter if you're getting on an airplane or if you're going somewhere else. You're constantly healing and supporting your body.
I do make a conscious effort to eat healthier right before I travel, because I know that I'm not going to be eating as well.
Yeah.
I'm going to be, coming into contact with a lot more people, and just things along the way.
Yeah.
And I also do travel with my essential oils, because I do feel like that's like a good supplement, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and it is a supplement for sure to treat it like that.
Yeah. And so what else? Oh, we were going to talk about when we were talking about dry versus fresh and going to the whole food. We were talking about how think about when there's pepper there in a pepper shaker sitting in a restaurant. It's been there ground up for years, maybe, just sitting there. And then think about your fresh cracked pepper mill. When you prep it on there, you can actually taste the pepper. It's so vibrant, and you can feel that it's actually going to work. It actually is spicy in your mouth and everything, whereas one that's been sitting in a pepper all ground up, it's like you can just keep throwing it on there and you don't even taste it so much, right? So that's how powerful going for the whole thing. So even if you can get it in seeds as opposed to ground and then grind it yourself, you're doing yourself a little bit of a favor and amping up that spice. And it is really cool to think about using the whole thing. So we were talking about, in the video, we talk about the coriander seed, and the leaf is the cilantro. And so by having both, you're actually getting the whole food, which is pretty cool.
It's awesome. So you're getting that synergy of the whole food. You have the seed, and then you're eating, like Cara was saying in the episode, just chop up the stems, eat the stems and the leaves, right? So now you're eating the whole food, so you're getting that synergy. And so you have like these different energies going on. You have the seed, which is more dense and warming, right? So it's going to bring more of that energy into the body. And then you have the leaf of the cilantro, or coriander if you live across the pond, right? They call it the same as the seed, is the leaf. You have the leafy cilantro, which is going to be more expansive and cooling and clearing. And cilantro specifically helps clear the liver. So it's also a heavy metal puller, so it'll help pull out toxicity. I really love it for cancer patients who've had radiation and chemotherapy. It helps pull out the toxic radiation from the body, because that is where the liver is trying to clear everything out. Parsley, on the other hand, is really great for the kidneys. So it's really going to be, it's a diuretic. It's going through more of the kidney element there. It's cooling. It's going to help lower blood pressure. If you have high blood pressure, it clears and cools the heart, right? So looking at the energies too of these foods, anything that's going to be leafy is going to be more cooling and clearing and detoxifying, and anything that's maybe more dense, even like something like rosemary is more dense, right? So that's going to be more of like a warming, or like a cinnamon, more blood moving and circulating. Any of the seeds, anything like that is going to have more of a warming property. So depending on what you need.
And hopefully you guys are having aha. When Megan talks, I have so many aha moments, because she'll be like, oh, this is good for the kidneys. Like, I've had kidney issues in my past, and it's like, oh, no wonder I'm so drawn to this herb. You know, it's so cool to hear about like what it's good for, and then you go like, yeah. It's kind of like when you go for reflexology and there's one point that hurts so bad when they touch it, and you can't wait to go look at the map and see what that's connected to, and then you go, oh, that's connected to this, and I've had pain there, and you know, or issues there, or disease there. It's all connected, and it's so cool. So I love hearing how these herbs are connected to certain organs and stuff.
Oh, it's amazing. And like Cara was saying, it's what you are attracted to a lot of times too, is what your body's calling out for. So in the story that I just did about making sauerkraut, I kept reaching for caraway, those caraway seeds, and I never cook with them on a daily basis, which is why I need them. So I like never use that jar, and that jar would literally fall in front of me. In our episode, I had all of our jars laid out.
You kept talking about I forget what spice you were talking about, but you picked that jar up instead. See? Yeah, every time.
It was crazy. I kept picking it up, and I got home, I picked it up again, and then I looked in my fridge. I had 2 things of cabbage, and I was like, I need to make sauerkraut, because this is what my body is calling out for caraway. So pay attention to that, because like Cara was saying, like whatever you're attracted to,
your body knows. And you can do the same thing with essential oils. So smell it, and you do this with teas also. You have people, you can just smell it, and your body will either be drawn to it or kind of reject it, and you just listen to that, and there's something like there's a knowing between your body and these scents that it knows that it needs it. And you can even do that with dogs and essential oils. So I've played this game with my dogs before, where you open it, you put it in front of their nose, and they either turn around and they want nothing to do with it, or they start licking their lips.
Really?
And then you know it's like one, so then I just let them smell on the ones that make them salivate.
Yes. And this is how we've been living for thousands of years is what is it that I'm attracted to? What is it that I'm grabbing? What is it that's growing all around me? Those are the things that are going to be healing for me and that I need to incorporate. But since we've gotten so far away from that, we think, wait, what? I know what I'm talking about? No, I don't. I need to go to the doctor. They know what they're talking about. No, that's not the case. You are your own expert. Your body knows what you need. What you need is usually growing all around you on such a deeper level. Yeah. So that's really how you can start using this. Pay attention, because your body has innate wisdom in it, and so do herbs. So
yeah.
Woo.
Okay.
Do you have anything else?
I think that's it.
Excuse me.
Yeah, I think we talked about everything we want to talk about today. Again, we love these live videos, and hopefully you guys enjoy them too. Someone joining us
Shanna.
now.
Hey, Shanna.
They're really helpful because in our recordings, we're trying to keep them short and powerful, but there's so much more we want to talk about. So I hope these conversations are helpful to you. Always send us questions throughout the week after we release an episode, and we're happy to bring up that topic in this live discussion to go deeper into it if there's something you want to learn more about, and which ultimately makes us learn more about it too. So we love that.
Yeah, it's so cool. And actually, just one question that we had gotten, or I've gotten in the past, has been about the difference between fresh and dried herbs, and is one better than the other? Like, are dried herbs not good then? And just really the case is like they've been dried, so yes, the essential oils are going to be less, and yes, the water content is obviously less, which means those vitamins probably aren't there, but there's a lot of benefit into being able to cook with them at higher temperatures, like we were saying. You start off your dish with them and then finish it off with some of the fresh, so it's just a different energy that you're getting from dried versus fresh. But if you're really going for potency, that's when you're going fresh. So
what about how long do you think spices last in the cabinet?
Oh yeah, like a year.
Okay, I have spices in my cabinet that ground.
Yeah.
They've probably been there for like 5 years.
Yeah, that's so common.
This is going to motivate me to do some spring cleaning of my spice cabinet. I hardly use them. You know what? And now that you can buy a lot of spices in bulk. And just going and buying a tiny little bag of something is so much more convenient.
Oh, convenient.
No, it's
convenient. Yeah,
much less expensive. Oh my gosh, you're always paying for the jar. You're not even paying for the spice.
Sorry,
it's like you can buy a baggie of cumin for 50 cents, and the jar is $5.80 or something.
Well, right, so. And also when you're buying in bulk, or maybe you're someone who doesn't like cook all the time, but you cook every once in a while. Buying the whole spice before, don't get it ground or whatever, chopped up. Try to buy it whole. That's gonna have a really long shelf life. Like that could be like a 5-year long shelf life. And then if you have a coffee grinder, that's how you grind it up. Just throw it in the coffee grinder, and then now you have ground cumin or a mortar and pestle.
A mortar and pestle you can use too.
Which is cool.
My coffee grounder is full of coffee beans, so Megan has one just
I don't
for
drink
spices.
coffee, so it's just spices. It's just my spice grinder.
What was I just going to say about the two? Oh, now that we're even looking at, if you get really into using your herbs seasonally, because there are herbs that are more, so I'm going to be more conscious about just buying what I need for the season and trying to really use it up in that season so that it starts again fresh,
You mean so like you get like your craving and everything satisfied?
Just
kind of like...
Yeah, and just using it up so it's not sitting there for 3 years. Like I only want to buy
the herb,
what I'm going to use,
spices,
as far as the spices. Yeah.
For sure.
I'm doing a do-over, a start over.
I like it.
I'm so excited.
Yeah.
I'm doing that this weekend. I'll put it in my story.
Yeah, and then looking for when you do go out and buy, you'll be getting like those really nice brands and things that don't irradiate their herbs, which is just
starting
awful,
fresh.
So yeah, exactly. I love it.
Yeah.
Good.
All right. Okay, thanks for those of you who have joined us.
Yes.
And those of you who are watching later, always reach out to us, and it's good to see you guys.
Yeah, awesome. We'll see you guys next week. Oh yeah, our episode next week is about
cocktails.
Yes. Hey Kim.
Yeah,
next week's episode's all about cocktails.
Yeah, and guess what? We're using these herbs in our cocktails.
Herbaceous.
Herbaceous.
Yeah, we're going to talk about how drinking can be, you know, something to help promote your health, but we're talking about how that balance happens and what's going on behind the scenes with alcohol in your body and the things that it's mixed with. So,
which means next week live we might have a cocktail in our hand, so maybe you want to join us. Maybe we need to do more of a happy hour timing.
Or we'll just say it's 12 o'clock somewhere.
That's right.
All right.
All right. Bye, everyone.
All right. Bye. Have a great day.